Hey, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. I'm Michael Pachter, and we're glad you're here. By the way, we're not actually profiting on this, even though it is a profit deal. We're trying to just have Shane break even. So please, if you aren't a Patreon patron, consider being a patron and watching on SIFTD.net. If you can't afford that, please link your Prime account to your Twitch account, and the instructions are in the show description below. That's free for you, but Amazon will pay us, so that's good for Shane. Our question today from Sifted from Herbitronic, or Herbitronic if you prefer. Do you think that Nintendo is properly utilizing its intellectual property with things like the Super Nintendo World theme parks and movies based on their franchise? What can it do to reach Disney's level of IP management? Great question. The Nintendo brand is as powerful as the Disney brand. But Disney is a unique company in that they exploit their IP better than anybody. So that's hard to do. I mean, obviously, there are plenty of good companies out there who don't achieve the level of IP management that Disney has. It takes years. Disney are masters at it. I mean, the quick answer to your question is they should sell to Disney. If Nintendo was owned by Disney, they would absolutely reach that level of management. And that's what Disney has done with the Star Wars brand. That's what they've done with the Marvel brand. That's what they've done with the Pixar brand. They're really good at maximizing the value of their IP. Is Nintendo properly utilizing its intellectual property? Way better than it used to. I mean, it used to be that there was nothing that said Nintendo on it that was legal except Nintendo games. They've gotten better about merchandising. I think they started with the Amiibos, which are, I mean, yes, you can play them in games, but they were collectibles, and people bought them because they were cool, and they had Mario on. They are now licensing for Halloween costumes, which, again, I remember before they did that, we get about 700 kids at Halloween, and I saw 50 different kids with a Nintendo-themed rip-off outfit. So, they're getting better, but they're not yet to the Disney level. And, Super Nintendo World, I mean, that's a start. It's not going to be as big as Disneyland until it's bigger than Disneyland. It's going to take years. Disneyland was opened in 1955. It is literally 65 years old. It took them a long time for dominance. So Nintendo's got a ways to go. From Sifted, from Derek D111. Square-Enix takes too long to release games from its Japanese studios, despite having giant development teams. Rockstar isn't much better, but at least it and Take-Two make a few billion on each game. How is Square-Enix profitable when it only makes around $500 million on long in development games like Final Fantasy 15? Would it ever consider stopping production of big budget games in favor of what is actually generating profit? I get taking a long time to make games, and the rule of thumb is that games have between 100 and 400 people on a development team. The normal team is about 200. The normal salary, and I'm just using easy numbers, is $100,000. So game developers make pretty good money, and the producers make more, and the artists make less, and but 200 people times 100,000. So a year of development costs $20 million. And the way that they manage the development process is they think about what the game's going to sell. And if you're going to make a game that's only going to sell 3 or 4 million units, they sell for $60. Let's call it 3 million units, 180 million retail, more like 150 million wholesale. And it just doesn't make sense at 150 million wholesale to spend much more than 40-50 million bucks on development. So 2.5 years if you're going to have a 3 million unit seller. If you're going to have a 100 million unit seller, Grand Theft Auto, that's not all at $60. So let's say the average is 40. Then that's a good round number, actually. So they have $4 billion in revenue. Who cares if it takes an extra year or two, right? So again, they probably have a bigger team, but if you have 20 million a year and it takes 10 years, 200 million, and you make $1 billion, they can afford it. It doesn't matter. So I think the analogy is like the movie business. If you're making a romantic comedy and you expect the box office to be $50 million, you better not spend more than $10 or $15 million on a movie. If you're making Avatar or Avengers Endgame and you expect the box office to be $2.5 billion, yeah, you can take 10 years. People love to bitch about Final Fantasy and Square-Enix. They love to bitch about how long it takes for GTA, which came out last in September of 13. And we know it's not in the 2020 lineup, so minimum 8 years and more likely 10. But the truth is, look at Avatar. You know, that I bet you don't know this, but that movie, you can look this up, came out in 2009. It's 11 years since that movie came out. And I think they dated Avatar 2 for 2021, I think. So it'll be 12 years for a movie. So yeah, games take a long time if the publisher decides that it's worth the investment. Every year that a game's in development is sunk cost. They got to keep paying the developers. Now, I had a disagreement once, and by the way, this guy's a wonderful guy, but Strauss Zelnick and I got into a little tiff back in 2012, and he is a gentleman, and I love him, so I mean this respectfully. But I wrote that I was disappointed in Max Payne because it had taken 8 years to develop. Max Payne 3 came out in May, I believe, of 2012. You can check me on the month, but right around there. And Strauss called me up and he's like, what do you mean 8 years of development? There's no way it took 8 years of development. How can you even say something like that? And I go, well, I got it because your predecessor, Jeff Lappin, said in an interview in March of 2004 that he could confirm Max Payne 3 was in development. Now, Strauss got to Take-Two in April of 2007. So in fairness to Strauss, he doesn't know what Jeff Lappin said in 2004 because Strauss wasn't working in the industry. But Jeff did say it, and I sent Strauss a link to the GameSpot article from, I believe it was March 1st, 2004. You guys can check me on this. This is, my wife calls me Rain Man. I'm pretty good on this stuff. And I said to Strauss, last I checked, it's May of 2012, and that's 8 years. And Strauss was really cool. I mean, he was like, oh, my bad. But believe me, they didn't work on it continuously. So sure, the studio may have picked that up, done something else, gone back to it. For all I know, they started working on it and scrapped it. I mean, that's happened with Splinter Cell like 5 times. So you never really know what's going on behind the scenes. Square-Enix has been working on Final Fantasy 15 on and off 5 different iterations. They've canceled it and restarted it and canceled it and restarted it. And so it's possible that they actually had a game ready to go that was bad and they scrapped it. And so that's just called sunk cost. They make mistakes. Rockstar, if you remember, there was a game announced at E3 2009 called Agent. Remember that one? I don't know what happened to it, but it hasn't come out yet. I heard that Rockstar abandoned the trademark for Agent, so it's possible that they're not making it anymore. It's equally possible they are. So I don't know. And when you say it's worth it for like Take-Two because they make a few billion, how much are they going to make on Bully? Because that's in development. The last one I think came out in 2007 or 8. It's going to be coming out in 2021. 13 years in development? Probably not in a row. I'm going to be back to Strauss. I think Strauss, that was a fair point, but we don't know. Your question, we don't know if the same people are working on that game nonstop or they put it aside for 3 years and worked on something else. That really is possible. I'll give you a little known fact. The studio that made Red Dead Redemption, Rockstar San Diego, they also made Midnight Club. And there was a big, long complaint back in 2009, I think, or so. Rockstar's spouse, she was complaining about how tough the crunch time conditions were at Rockstar San Diego because her husband was working on Midnight Club and ended up getting pulled off of that to go work on Red Dead Redemption, And according to Jason Schreier in Kotaku, his last article there, that's all been fixed and people are happy working at Rockstar now, which is cool. But the point is that there are guys who work on more than one game, and they drop their work on one game and go work on another, and we just don't know how the sausage is made. So I'm not going to diss Square-Enix. I don't know what else they're working on. I don't cover them, so I couldn't even tell you how they make money. They are Japanese and they're odd, and I don't know the answer. But yes, they do, in fact, all the time stop production of big budget games and then go back to them. And I don't know what Square-Enix in particular does, or what Rockstar in particular does, but I think that those guys, the quality justifies the long wait, because you get really great content from these guys. So Rockstar, that's in the business. I personally freaking hate Final Fantasy. I think it's goofy. I don't get it at all, but it's not my thing. That might be your thing. Thank you for joining us today on Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. Thank you for your patronage on Patreon. Thank you for linking your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account. And thank you for following me on Twitter. See you tomorrow.